Thank you for being with us here on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Laura Papetti, and we do have some special reporting today. It is a sad day for the firefighting community, really the whole community in the Coeur d'Alene and extended area, as 2 firefighters will be brought home from the medical examiner's office in Spokane. They'll be brought through the streets in an emergency vehicle procession to a funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. It is 9:47 right now. We expect that procession to begin in about 13 minutes at 10 o'clock. We appreciate you joining us for this special coverage this morning, again, for that procession that is scheduled to start at 10 o'clock, but you can already see people lining up. This is at the Spokane Medical Examiner's office, where you see people standing by, waiting to pay their respects. And that is exactly what firefighting authorities yesterday, when they announced the procession, told people and asked people to participate in the procession if able to safely line the route this morning, to bring flags, just to bring yourself and pay the respects to the men who lost their lives over the weekend. So again, this is a live look there. We're also taking a look at the 2 men who will be in the procession, the 2 men, the firefighters killed. It is tragic for that community. These are brothers to their fellow firefighters, and of course men who are loved and with families. Battalion Chief, 42-year-old Frank Harwood, married 2 children. And with the Coeur d'Alene Firefighters, Battalion Chief John Morrison, been serving since 1996 with Coeur d'Alene Fire. So many talents and so many positions that he served, and they talked about him being a longtime paramedic. So these are men who were killed in the shootings on Canfield Mountain this weekend on Sunday. They were part of the effort, part of the responding crews that got word just shortly before 1:30 in the afternoon of a fire on Canfield. They rushed to the scene of that fire, which turned into a murder scene. This is some video from that day, from the staging efforts, where you see literally hundreds of first responders rushing to the scene once the shootings began. We did find out more information yesterday about the shooter, who authorities say killed himself at that scene, but today we're going to focus on the men who are going to be brought through the procession who were killed. And this is, you are looking at, is actually video from a procession on Sunday. So the men were taken through the streets and down the highway from Coeur d'Alene, from the scene to the medical examiner's office on Sunday in a procession, as you can see, led with emergency vehicles, and they drove the men to the examiner's office. And this is the scene on Sunday, as it was a somber moment as people were driving by. They were watching from overpasses. Of course, many people at this point just learning about what happened on Canfield Mountain on Sunday when firefighters responded to that fire, and then were met with gunfire once they were there. The men were taken to the Spokane Medical Examiner's office until today. And at 10 o'clock, in about 10 minutes from now, they will be leaving the medical examiner's office and headed again through the streets to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. This is a map that we're showing, and we'll also be posting this on krem.com so that you can look at the route. They are saying if you have the time and would like to pay your respects today, if there is an area that you can safely find along the route, to please do so. Again, beginning at the Spokane Medical Examiner's office, where we are taking a live look right now, as you can see people already lining up, and then they'll be traveling down the freeway and into Coeur d'Alene. We do have Christian Garza on the scene right now. He is behind the camera here at the examiner's office, where, as we told you, people are lining up. Christian, can you give us some context and explain what it's like right now at the scene as people are gathering to pay their respects when the men leave here in about 10 minutes?
Yeah, Laura, so like you said, I'm here. We're right outside the medical examiner's office. They're going to actually come through these gates that I have the camera pointed to right here. Right here, lined up next to the alleyway where they're supposed to come out of here, this driveway, is the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue, as well as the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department. Obviously, those are the two agencies where these two men worked. Obviously, they're within Coeur d'Alene. It is heavy. It is heavy out here, to say the least. There were a lot of hugs this morning when I first got here. I've been here on scene for about an hour, just seeing all the different people come through and just be here and support each other. There's also, I'm going to flip the camera around here for just a second so you could see, there's also a line of community members here as well. They have their American flags. They're here to show support for these fallen heroes as well. And so there's a big community support and just community effort to make sure that these people know that they are, and these communities know that they are loved and they are with them in this unbearable time and unimaginable time, truly. Just kind of responding to the events that unfolded here this weekend.
All right, Christian, he's describing what is, he says, of course, a heavy scene, an emotional scene, as members of the different crews, Coeur d'Alene Fire, Kootenai County Fire and Rescue, are awaiting, along with the public, for the men to be brought out of the Spokane Medical Examiner's office, where the procession that'll be led by emergency crews will make their way through the streets in Spokane, onto the freeway, and then head east to Coeur d'Alene and to the funeral home there. And so this is a live look right outside the examiner's office, again, where the men were brought following the scene on Sunday, and they have been at the examiner's office and now will be brought home to Coeur d'Alene. We do have crews positioned along the route, and you can see in different areas flags are flying. And we have a crew at Thor Freya, and I believe this is a live look where there's a flag flying there, right over where the procession will go. And we do have Regan Gallo behind the camera as she continues our coverage this morning of that procession. Regan, the scene there, that flag is spectacular. Apparently we don't have Regan right now. That flag is spectacular as it is flying, and people are continuing to gather in that area right now. Again, wherever you can be to watch the procession is appreciated, according to fire crews, as long as you can do it safely, as a way to pay respects, of course, to these men. One of the things that fire crews mentioned yesterday, before they started talking about the procession, is that they have received such an outpouring of support from the community, and what that has meant to them as a firefighting community, but also to the families of the men killed. And of course, we want to mention right now, there is one firefighter who is in the hospital, Dave Tisdall, who has undergone, we're told, 2 surgeries and is in the hospital. His family gave a brief message via a note to the fire crews yesterday when they were talking to the media that he has done well in those surgeries, and they are with him at the hospital, and the community is with them in spirit. And so we wanted to mention that as well. 3 men shot in that scene while responding to a fire at Canfield. The 2 men today that will be in the procession who were killed, and then again Dave Tisdall, who is in the hospital and at last report had undergone 2 surgeries, which the family said were deemed successful, had gone well as he continues his fight to survive what happened on Sunday. So this route, we are just about 4 minutes away from them beginning that procession. Again, we'll go down the freeway and into Coeur d'Alene. While we have a moment here, if we could take that graphic back, I'm sorry, I do want to take a moment to talk about the places where, if you would like to give financially to the families impacted by this, the firefighters were adamant that folks wait till they could release specific options so that you know that your money was going to those impacted by this. So here's what we have received, again, from the two firefighting agencies, both Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. They recommend, if you would like, giving to the Red Blue Foundation. That can be found online, redbluefoundation.org, or if you would like to give in person. And understandably, right now with so much going on, it sometimes feels better to actually physically give something in person. So if you would like to make a financial donation, you can go to any First Interstate bank in the local area, Coeur d'Alene, Spokane areas, and mention the Canfield incident, and they will put it in a fund there. So again, First Interstate banks, local branches, or the redbluefoundation.org. There was an immediate outpouring of support when this happened. People wanting to do something good in such a terrible instance. So that's one way you can give. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a live look again where the procession is set to start in just minutes from now. We're starting to see a little bit of movement. Again, folks have lined up this morning. We have crews on the scene that said people are starting to line up. Both we're seeing folks from the different firefighting organizations, but also the public coming out to pay their respects along the route. The procession will be led by 911 responders, first responders, emergency crews, as of course these were their brothers, and it's hit those communities certainly extra hard, but the whole community really struggling with what happened, there's really no making sense of it, but trying to do something to pay their respects, to do something in response to what happened. And we have seen people starting to gather over the last 45 minutes to an hour in different areas where the procession will be going by. As you can see, we are starting to see some movement there, so we expect that procession to get underway here in a little under about a minute or so. Again, we were given that 10 o'clock start time by the fire organizations, Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County, both so impacted by what happened on Canfield Mountain. And you can see people, again, from crews, people of all ages, small children, coming out to be part of this, to pay respects. I do want to mention here in about 30 seconds, we're going to take just a quick pause as we welcome our viewers on KREM 2. We appreciate you being with us this morning on KREM 2 Plus to be part of this coverage in our way, paying respects to the men as they make their journey home to Coeur d'Alene, where they, of course, are going to be so missed. Longtime firefighters, amazing resumes as firefighters, but also, of course, family and community members. We're going to pause here for just a moment. Thanks for being with us here on KREM 2. If you're just joining us now, and thank you if you're staying with us on KREM 2 Plus, where we have been talking and we have crews all along the procession route, which is scheduled to begin at any moment. This is where the two men who were killed on Canfield Mountain on Sunday, ambushed by shots fired when they were responding to a fire on Canfield Mountain, and they were killed. They were brought here to the Spokane Medical Examiner's office following what happened on Sunday, and now this morning they will make their way home in an emergency vehicle procession that will go from the Medical Examiner's office to Coeur d'Alene. We want to take a few moments as, again, our crews are getting into place and talk about the men that we are honoring this morning, that you are watching, that will be in this procession. There is Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, 42 years old, married, 2 children, a veteran, and a long time firefighter. Also with the Coeur d'Alene firefighters, Battalion Chief John Morrison. He began with Coeur d'Alene firefighters 1996. A longtime firefighter, and held a significant amount of positions, longtime paramedic, men who were rushing to the scene when a fire was reported just before 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday. Word of a fire They rushed to help and were met with gunfire, ambushed at that scene where they were killed. They were taken in a procession that day to the Spokane Medical Examiner's office, and that's where they have been until this morning, where any moment now they are expected to be taken in a procession. Again, this is emergency vehicles, so if you are going to watch this on air, you're seeing it online, if you're going to leave now and try to get safely to somewhere along the route, you will see a long, long line of emergency vehicles leading their fellow firefighters, their brothers from the medical examiner in Spokane to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. You are seeing people along the route. There are people that came out and just want to pay respects, holding flags. And our reporter, Christian Garza, he is behind the camera, but he's going to join us. And Christian, you described this scene as obviously very emotional, heavy this morning. It seems like there's been some movement out there. What's happening now?
Yeah, Laura. Well, I've been on scene here at the Spokane County Medical Examiner's office for the last hour, just kind of seeing many different people and many different agencies, first responding agencies from all across the inland Northwest come out and show their support for these affected communities today. Obviously, it's a very heavy day, and it's been a very heavy last couple of days here in the inland Northwest for this kind of unbelievable tragedy that happened here for first responders. Right now we're looking at the gates of the back gates, that is, of the medical examiner's office, where the procession is supposed to start here in mere moments. As you can see, they're going to turn left here once they get outside of the gate, and they're going to follow along the route like you've been talking about here. I'm just going to make sure everything's level for everybody. But as you can see, there's already first responding crews on motorcycles, and then all along the side of the medical examiner's office, there's all the different types of vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks, cop cars. There are so many different agencies and so many people here to support these communities during this time. And like I said, there are also a lot of community members here as well, like you mentioned, showing up for their to show support during this time. There are a lot of people with, American flags, and just, to make sure that the community knows that they are not alone during this time. And there seemingly has just been a number of people growing here on the side to watch the procession start here, like you said, in just mere moments. But there, like I mentioned, the atmosphere here is just very, very heavy. But there's also, a sense of community as well, because everyone here is doing so to support each other and make sure that everyone knows that they are not alone during this time.
Thanks, Christian, and he will be on scene again as the procession is set to begin at any time. You mentioned this is, of course, to honor the men who are being brought home to Coeur d'Alene, but also in support of all the men and women who are so impacted by this. Other 911 emergency responders, firefighters now, how devastating the past couple of days have been for them. And this is a show of support for all of those men and women who do so much every day. We have a reporter, Regan Gallo. She is at Thor and Freya, where they have a magnificent flag flying there. It is where the procession will drive by here shortly. Regan, we can see from the live look right now, people gathering, a lot of flags. Set the scene for us there where you are, where the procession will be going by shortly.
Laura, nice to hear from you. Yeah, I am right on that overpass near Thor Street, near the Fred Meyer, just before you go up to South Hill. And many people are here right now waiting for that procession to begin. I turned off the road as soon as I saw that giant flag waving in the sky, as many firefighters are here stationed at this spot with that beautiful American flag against that beautiful blue sky we have today. Many are lined up on their fire truck as well, standing above very heavy hearts. Everyone is in anticipation, everyone is waiting, and if you're driving on I-90 right now, you're going to be getting some slowdowns, lots of honks in respect and in honor of those two fallen firefighters. Everyone is slowing down, everyone's wondering what's going on, and it's truly a sight to see, and just waiting in anticipation. So a beautiful setting here to honor those two firefighters from North Idaho, and just a lot of people out here in support.
Regan, thank you. And as she said, just a lot of people standing out with their flags, gathering today, showing support for the two men, support for the families impacted by that, and really the firefighting and the greater emergency crew community. There are people gathering at different points all along the route, again, which will go from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, where the men will be brought. I do want to take one quick moment to mention Dave Tisdall. He is the third firefighter who was shot Sunday on Canfield Mountain, who was part of this ambush. He is fighting for his life. He is in the hospital. His family released a statement through firefighters yesterday at a media conference saying he did well, 2 different surgeries so far, and that was as of yesterday. He had already undergone 2 surgeries, and we're showing a picture of him. So again, part of that crew, part of those emergency workers who rushed to aid, rushed to a fire shortly before 1:30 when they got the call from Canfield Mountain that there was a fire, and was harmed in that. He is in the hospital, his family at his side, and fire crews and fire officials talked about him yesterday, of course, wanting him to be in everyone's thoughts right now. This is a really emotional day, as you might imagine, for so many people. And we're taking a look here. This is at the 7th Street overpass, Coeur d'Alene area. And this is where retired firefighters are gathering, we're told this morning, getting ready to honor the men as they come through the procession. And so you can see so many people and firefighters, the fire trucks, flags, they're out there holding their kids. It's a time right now, of course, just to be with family and loved ones as you gather for what's going to be an emotional time for so many people right now. You know, we've heard from so many people in the community, right, that they're so impacted by this. And then when you think about that tight-knit community of emergency workers and specifically firefighters, what a horrible, horrific time this must be for that community at large. And so many of them coming out, you can see the flag in the background there, and more flags as people again continue to gather for the procession that is due to start at any moment. People have been lining up really throughout the morning. We have crews that have been on scenes for about the last hour, and they said people have just been coming, and many of them again carrying those flags and signs of respect throughout the last hour, gathering for what's going to be a somber moment as emergency crews lead that procession through the streets of Spokane from the medical examiner office down the freeway into the funeral home. I want to take a moment, if we can, to put up a graphic as we wait here. That's a picture of the back gates at the medical examiner's office where we are expecting the men to be brought out. But before we get to that, as we wait for that, let's take a few moments. So many people wanting to make donations, we've been asked. So many people want to make sure the money is going to those impacted. So these are from the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue Departments. This is what they have given us. You can find also, they have posted it on their social media outlets as well. The redbluefoundation.org. And if you would like an in-person option, you can go to your area First Interstate Bank, your local branch in the greater Coeur d'Alene and Spokane areas, and mention the Canfield incident. Then they will know what account to put that money in and get it to people who have been impacted by this. So many people, of course, impacted by this. We were also, as part of the media conversation yesterday, the media releases, and we are grateful to the fire departments and the sheriff's office for taking time to update us yesterday, really talking about some of the resources that are being brought in for the folks in the fire departments who are so shaken by this, bringing in different resources. They have peer counseling. They said they have a specific crew coming in that handles or helps with supporting funeral arrangements. They are bringing folks in to help those family members impacted. So there is so much to be done and so much support that needs to happen, not just, of course, for the families of the firefighters, but the greater family of the firefighter. People talk all the time about their work families. Well, these are men and women who, of course, work together every day in really intense emotional settings, who live together as firefighters often do. So they spend a lot of time with their fellow firefighters, their coworkers, and it becomes family. And so it's really hard to imagine what so many of them are feeling right now. I would certainly never be bold enough, but imagine that to assume anything other than imagine this time right now is extremely hard and extremely emotional. And this morning, this procession will certainly be part of that journey that they're on now, following the events that happen. One of the things we're seeing all along the route this morning of the procession are these just amazing flags that are being put up in honor of the men as they'll be coming through. And we're seeing the whole area is filled with different emergency crews, fire trucks, standing in wait for the men to be brought down the procession route. And again, those magnificent flags, just enormous, and can be spotted as you head down the freeway. If you haven't, maybe you're just getting up now to leave the house, beware. This will be moving slowly down the road from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office, down the freeway, and into Coeur d'Alene. And there will be an extreme amount of emergency vehicles. There will be people lining the streets. Fire officials are hoping people are able to do that, line the streets safely. They are asking that people be very cautious. So certainly they don't want anybody hurt today as they're trying to pay the respects, but that if you're able to do so, you are certainly invited to do that. If you're going to be going somewhere, making your way through your own day, be aware that this will be going on shortly. We were told at 10 o'clock that it would be at 10 o'clock. So obviously past the top of the hour. So we expect it at any moment as those, again, so many members of the community are standing by and waiting. If we can take a moment and we can show the pictures of the men. We are not purposely talking about this morning the shooter that was involved. We did find out more information about him. You can read about that on creme.com, or certainly we'll have it throughout the day. But this morning, celebrating the lives of the firefighters who were killed. Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, 42 years old, with a family, also a veteran as well. Coeur d'Alene Battalion Chief John Morrison has been with the fire department in Coeur d'Alene since 1996, serving a long career, many different positions. We were told yesterday, longtime paramedic. So both men, heroes by all accounts. We don't use that word loosely. Heroes, consistently rushing toward crisis and dangerous scenes, fires, rescuing people who are in great need. And they heard the call on Sunday when they rushed to the scene on Canfield Mountain, and that is where they were met by gunfire and killed, leaving behind devastated community, friends, family. They will be honored today in a procession. If you're just joining us now, these men will be honored in a procession from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. If you are getting ready to leave your home right now and driving potentially from down east on the freeway from Spokane to the Coeur d'Alene area or somewhere around there, you will likely see crowds lining the roadway. You may see some very large American flags, I should say flags of all sizes, as a sign of respect. And then the procession itself, we're expecting a tremendous amount of emergency vehicles to be leading that procession, to be part of that procession. And so certainly put that in your mind and take some time to think about what that may mean if you're going to be traveling in that area, as they will be likely moving slowly from the Spokane area to the Coeur d'Alene area. We have crews dotted along the route, as well as visuals from the Department of Transportation cameras along that area, which we will be able to show you on KREM 2 Plus and on KREM.com. And of course, our coverage will continue throughout the day, including on KREM 2 News at noon, 4, 5, and 6. And again, these are emergency vehicles and people standing by waiting for that procession to begin. We keep putting this up because I think it's important to also mention today the third firefighter who was at the scene in Canfield Mountain on Sunday, Dave Tisdall. He is the firefighter who was wounded, he was shot at the hospital and with his family, and we're told yesterday that he had undergone already by yesterday. So yesterday was Monday, this happened on Sunday, already undergone 2 surgeries. His family telling us through the fire department that the surgeries, he did well. At last report, and again, this was yesterday, he was in ICU and again, fighting to live following the serious injuries he sustained when he was part of the crew that was ambushed on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. So showing a picture of him, keeping him in our mind and our thoughts, and his whole family as he continues his fight, and he continues as collectively the community does, mourning the death of these 2 men. We're going to go back to our reporter Christian Garza, who is stationed at the Spokane Medical Examiner's office where the procession will begin. He has been surrounded by people throughout the morning as they gather, so many of them part of the firefighting community, part of the greater community of emergency workers, but also community members who have come out to show their support, many of them bringing, as we can see, the American flag. Christian, have more people continued to come since we last checked in with you?
Yeah, Laura, it seemed like, people are definitely coming in by the truckloads, so to speak. There are a lot of people, because it is a little bit of a hotter day, they're all kind of clinging to the shade here in these areas on near Pacific and First Avenue and stuff like that as well, right outside the Spokane County Medical Examiner's office. But, as we get closer, and I mean, like you said, it was supposed to start here at 10, but seemingly we're still going to be hanging on here just a little bit longer for everyone to kind of get ready, make sure everything is set for this procession. There are, like you mentioned, a lot of first responders, agencies here from across the Pacific or in inland Northwest, there are, Kootenai County Fire and Rescue, Coeur d'Alene Fire, Spokane Valley, Spokane, all the different ones here in the area. There's multiple helicopters in the air as well, and so it's a big community effort and showing support for these different affected communities for the tragedy that happened here over the weekend. As you can see, there are also a lot of motorcycles here and motorcyclists as well, kind of getting ready to start here at the procession at the Spokane County Medical Examiner's office. Like I mentioned also earlier, there are a lot of American flags, there are a lot of community members, there are a lot of people waiting to show their support for these affected communities for this procession to start here in the area.
Christian, we're taking a look right now. We can see some of the officers on motorcycles putting on their helmets, getting on their bikes. So some movement happening out there right now. So we may be getting closer to the beginning. One thing Christian mentioned, if you look around, and we've been showing the different angles of people standing by, you can see, as Christian mentioned, they are gathering, finding a little bit of shade as it is a warm morning as they wait for that procession to begin. The procession route, again, going from the Spokane Medical Examiner's Office down the freeway and into Coeur d'Alene. And so different areas, we find different communities gathering. I did want to go back, if possible, to the 7th Street overpass. That is where retired firefighters are gathering. We saw some folks out there with signs of support as well. And that is one of the areas where you can imagine it will be a very emotional morning as they see 2 firefighters being brought by. And again, different communities gathering together to show their support. One of the things we should mention, and Christian talked about it a little bit, that there are different people from different agencies, different firefighting agencies, police stations gathering at these different vantage points, viewing areas for this procession. Not surprising, as so many people are impacted by it. If we can take a look at some of the video from the day, from the scene near Canfield Mountain when it happened, you will see different response units from everywhere. They just came immediately and came to the area of Canfield Mountain when it was happening and responded. You can see emergency crews from different organizations, different agencies, different fire departments, all responding to what happened, all feeling that impact of what happened that day. And now many of those crews or many of those agencies are lining the procession route. And again, that's set to take place at any moment. So that is, we see the folks responding when one of their own, certainly, or anybody's in trouble. They rush to aid, and certainly one of their own, they rushed to help where they could. And now today, gathering just 2 days later to pay their respects to the 2 men who were killed. And again, you can see firefighting agencies lining that route. This is really a dramatic look here. This is in the Thor Freya area, just a lower South Hill, right where you get on the freeway there, and that amazing flag flying there in a very slight breeze. And as Reagan Gallows out there was talking about the backdrop, that enormous flag against the blue sky, and the men and women paying their respects. Regan, we talked with you just a few moments ago. Any changes where you're at? Does the community just continue to grow out there? What's happening?
Yeah, Laura, just as I've been out here for 20 minutes, I mean, more and more people are parking over by the streets to come gather and just wait in anticipation of the procession to start. More people with some wonderful signs that they made to show the honoring of our fallen firefighters. So just a very patriotic scene here, and it is very hot outside, so definitely some of those firefighters that are waiting in anticipation on their trucks, I can tell they're trying to be careful as just the heat and the sun are especially right on everyone's backs, so trying to stay as hydrated as possible. But the crowd is growing out here. If anyone is going to be near Thor and Freya, definitely just be sure to expect slow down times. Everyone is slowing down, everyone is honking, everyone on the freeway is just basically taking a moment to just watch the beautiful flag, honor the firefighters in any way that they can. So lots of flags out here, a lot of support, and just a really somber but respectful scene.
Regan, thank you. Regan, talking a little bit about that. Christian as well, talking about people just in their own way taking a moment, even if it's just honking a horn, waving to the men and women who are lining that route, just taking the time, again, in their own way as best they can to pay respects. And I'm not sure what we're looking at here. Is this a different angle of Thor Freya? That flag is is dramatic as you drive by. And so if you are, say, leaving your home now and you're going to be in that area, do beware. There are a lot of people out there lining the roadways. You'll see a lot of flags, and certainly they continue to wait as their two friends, many of them in the firefighting community, of course, knowing each other, mourning the loss of two great firefighters. We've gotten a little bit of a look into their lives. The fire agencies were gracious enough to give an update yesterday on a little bit about who these men were and their connection to the community and what they have meant to the community. These are, of course, two men that had so many people who loved them, and now who are mourning their loss. And so it is bringing people out to line the streets across, two different states. The route reaches from the Spokane Medical Examiner to of course, to the Coeur d'Alene area. This is I-90 Argonne area that we're taking a live look right now, and you can see those emergency vehicles, the red trucks out there, and people lining that area. And we have different people posted along the route to bring you live coverage of this procession, which is scheduled to get underway at any moment. One of the things that the fire officials yesterday asking during their press conference and during their update, letting us know about who these men then were and what they meant to the community, but also, of course, asking the media, the public, everyone to, of course, give the family their time and their moments to grieve privately, and saying, though, if you do want to pay your respects, here is a way that you can do it. You can also make donations, if you would like, to the people impacted by this. These did not come from us here at CREM 2. These are ways in which you can give according to the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and the Cooney County Fire Department. And we're being very specific about that because the fire agencies have asked that if you would like to make a donation, you do so to specific donor points so that they know exactly where that money is going. I don't know if we have a moment to show that list of donation points of reference, but just very quickly, the redbluefoundation.org, if you're comfortable giving online. The fire agency says they're very comfortable working with them and know the money will go to where it is intended. And also you can make an in-person donation to First Interstate Bank local branches, mentioning the Canfield incident. So again, wanting to give families their space and their privacy, but we know that so many people are struggling, wanting to do something, feeling helpless about what's happened. And so there is a way in which you can do that. You can also join, again, the procession route today. We are expecting it to begin any moment, but if you want to line the roadway in a safe manner, wherever you can safely be and see the procession going by, you're encouraged to do so. Many people, again, lining the route as we speak with signs and flags. We saw many people holding their small children, standing next to loved ones. This is an emotional time for a lot of people, especially in that tight-knit community of firefighters and emergency workers. And so we've seen so much of that along the route. We're going to take a look now. The men are going to travel from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. And that is where we do have Brandon T. Jones. He is there as people are gathering there as well and getting ready to be part of that procession. And that will be the final spot on the procession route will be the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. Brandon, good morning to you. Tell me what you can about what you're seeing where you are. First, describe where you are exactly, and then and let us know what you're seeing there.
Yeah, hey there, Laura. Well, this is the English Funeral Chapel right here. This is where the procession will be coming to an end. So what you're looking at right now is some live images of people who are still showing up here to Coeur d'Alene. Of course, still waiting for that procession to get underway, but crowds are growing by the minute here in Coeur d'Alene. A lot of people just coming out to try and pay their respects. Of course, the last few days here in Coeur d'Alene, in North Idaho, across the inland Northwest have been extremely challenging. Have been extremely difficult to process and try to make sense of this tragedy that happened here and the loss of these two firefighters that were just out here trying to protect their community, responding to a fire before being ambushed by a gunman. So again, this is at the English Funeral Chapel. We've been out here all morning long. We saw some of these trucks start to make their way out. They've got a truck over here with the American flag. Al, if we can pan over here, they came and set this up around 8 a.m. this morning, this old school fire truck. And you could see that, or just sense the feelings that these firefighters, that their colleagues are holding with them today. It's not clear how long it'll take, and of course grief has no exact timeline, but you can imagine they're going through a lot right now. They're going through a lot. They've lost two of their brothers. Another one is actively still fighting for his life in the hospital. So I think the sense that you're getting from these people that are out here right now is just an opportunity for them to come out here and pay their respects. I talked with one lady not too long ago, a woman out here who says she's lived in Coeur d'Alene since 1985. She said a few years ago she had a fire in her basement. She was alone, home by herself. Her husband wasn't there at the time, and firefighters came out. They responded. They woke her up in the middle of the night. There was no smell, there was no sign of a fire, but the entire basement was engulfed. And I was having a conversation with her. This woman's name is Sharon. As I was having a conversation with Sharon, she just got extremely emotional. You could tell just how impacted she was by these local heroes. I know, Laura, that's something you said a little bit earlier. It's not a term we use loosely. These are local heroes, though. They put themselves on the line day in and day out, putting themselves in dangerous circumstances. So as I was talking to Sharon, she was getting emotional. She was talking about how these firefighters, they responded to her house. They saved her life ultimately by being able to respond so quickly in a moment and in a matter where she wasn't even aware there was a fire actively at the house. So I think that kind of paints a little bit of a picture of who we're talking about here. Firefighters, the salt of the earth, people who, again, sacrificing their lives, putting their lives on the line. And to know the manner of their death this past week, and it truly is extremely heartbreaking. So again, we're going to be out here, continuing to have these kind of conversations with the individuals who have showed up, who have decided to pay their respect and have, just tried to be here for their fellow community members. Again, we're here at the English Funeral Chapel. So this road right here is 4th. This is where the procession is going to be coming to an end. They're going to be coming up north, and I can imagine there's going to continue to be more and more individuals who make their way out here over the next few minutes. But I'll go ahead and toss it back to you, Laura.
Brandon, thank you. Brandon speaking to a woman who had firefighters rush in and save her life. And we see it as news people all the time. Firefighters, we stand behind a line. People move away from fire. And these are the men and women who charge forward and do what they can to save property, to save lives every day, every single day. And that's what the two men were doing, rushing toward fire when they were killed by a gunman. All right, we are taking a live look right now. This is near the Spokane Medical Examiner's office, where there are crews now moving, a fire truck and fire vehicles moving in the area. You can also see some parked motorcycle emergency crews. We've watched some of the officers, motorcycle officers, putting on their helmets, and now we are seeing movement near the medical examiner's office, and we are seeing a hearse, and it's being led by the fire trucks. And I believe what we're seeing is likely the beginning of the procession, as the streets are lined now with people waiting to pay their respects to the two men killed in that ambush on Canfield Mountain. I'm going to take a moment here as we watch what I believe is the beginning of it, and fire crews and emergency workers getting in place. The procession is going to start here and then head east towards, as we just saw, towards Coeur d'Alene to the funeral, to English Funeral Chapel there, where that procession then will end. And again, we are now seeing movement out here. So we're gonna listen in as we have crews parked along the route as things get underway. We'll take a moment here.
All right, we probably got about 5 minutes still. I don't know what we can do with the collision, but let me know what you're finding. Okay, I got it. It's gonna try to move it off.
So I believe we just heard it'll be starting in a few minutes. Is that what we just heard? We just got a 5-minute update. So now the procession, the folks involved, the emergency vehicles getting in place for the beginning of that. As you might imagine, it is a horrific couple of days for the firefighting families, but also the greater emergency crew family. That extends, certainly crews don't really see boundaries and state lines. This is a community that expands throughout the inland Northwest. And so you will see different agencies involved in what's going to happen over the next several minutes as the procession begins and they begin to travel east. We did see the officers, the motorcycle crews getting ready, putting on helmets, on standby. We have been given a 5-minute update, probably closer now to 3 or 4 minutes until things will start moving. In the meantime, we have seen people continue to gather. We've had crews in place now for over an hour, and we've seen crews continue to gather along roadways, bringing their flags with them. We've seen flags all along the side of the roads. We see families gathering, different agencies. We imagine many of them workers in the area coming out. This is, again, the medical examiner's office where the procession will begin. We have cameras staged along the area, along the route, all the way to the Coeur d'Alene area, where it will end at the English Funeral Chapel. And again, the 2 men being brought in the procession, killed on Sunday on Canfield Mountain while being heroic, responding to a report of a fire shortly before 1:30. And they were met by a fire there, and they were also met by a gunman and shot and killed on Sunday. One of their brothers shot, wounded, and in the hospital. We're going to take a moment now to pause and listen in as the procession gets underway. We are taking a live look right now at what is the very beginning of the procession for firefighters who were killed in an ambush on Canfield Mountain this past weekend on Sunday. And we are just now seeing things get underway as the procession will move from the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. You are seeing flags and people lining the roadways, and you will see that as the procession makes its way again from the medical examiner's office, where it is beginning right now, to Coeur d'Alene. And you can also hear helicopters in the area. You will likely see, if you are heading out right now, maybe to the area, to stand by safely, hopefully on the roadway, to pay your respects. You will see this move through the streets and onto the freeway and head east. You can see so many different responding agencies, men and women, standing by in salute as their brothers are driven by in this procession. Two men who dedicated their life to community, to the protection of the community. Two men who were longtime firefighters. One was a veteran, paramedics. They worked for years protecting the community, and then were gunned down on Sunday while continuing to try and work and protect their community. Today, an emotional day as the procession is just getting underway right now, and you can see dozens of emergency vehicles, firefighting vehicles, from police agencies from around the region who are part of this procession, taking the two men from the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office, again, to a funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. It has been an incredibly challenging couple of days for the emergency working community, as they not only have to say goodbye and mourn the loss of two of their brothers, but also their thoughts with the firefighters still in the hospital. The third firefighter who was shot on Sunday on Canfield Mountain and who is now struggling to live and who has undergone 2 surgeries so far, we're told by the fire agencies. The procession is moving by now, again, traveling from this point at the medical examiner's office, will make its way through the streets. And we can certainly take a look at some of the different areas that it will be traveling by, as there are men and women lining the streets throughout the Spokane, Coeur d'Alene areas, paying their respects. And you will see, if you're in that area, Along the route, you will see flags flying, people saluting, people holding handmade signs, standing arm in arm with their friends, family, colleagues, and certainly see hundreds of men and women who work every day in that emergency response community and do what they can to serve their community. And now, again, saying goodbye to two of their own. This line continues to move, again, as things are getting underway from the medical examiner's office. And we have just held steady on this to just show you the amount of people who are involved in this procession, who have come to be part of it as a show of respect. The procession now reaching the freeway area. And again, we have Department of Transportation cameras. This is near Division Street. And we have cameras positioned along the route. Department of Transportation cameras are live, and you can see it, the procession as it makes its way through the city, now onto the freeway, where then the procession will head east towards Coeur d'Alene. You'll see cameras updating as we go through those Department of Transportation cameras that show the procession. Fire agencies asked yesterday if people needed a way to connect, and a way to pay respects, that as they give the family, of course, privacy and the ability to mourn in their time and in their space, this was a way for the community at large to come together and show their support, not only just for these two firefighters, but for the firefighting community as a whole. We know that traffic will move slowly along the freeway as that procession, and you saw those cars slowly coming around the corner, and dozens of emergency vehicles as they gather to drive this final drive of those two firefighters east to the funeral home. And we have cameras positioned along the area overlooking. We have cameras overlooking the freeway. These are bridges and overpasses where people are gathering. Obviously, we have our cameras trained on to the freeway, but in the distance there, you can see flags flying that emergency crews have brought, members of the community have brought to stand by, stand and wait for the men and the procession to make its way through the Spokane, Coeur d'Alene areas. As we saw people gathering, it's certainly a warm morning. People were finding bits of shade where they could, but they started gathering, some folks gathering hours ago to begin the wait, making it part of their day and part of their process in grief, to be part of today's procession. If you were just getting up now, maybe heading in that direction, traveling east along the freeway, do make note that this is happening. It may take some time as things move through. And again, you will likely see people gathering on the sides and on overpasses and the procession itself. The two men being brought from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the funeral home were gunned down on Sunday on Canfield Mountain, and before that day had very storied careers with their firefighting agencies. This spans over a couple of different agencies because when the call came in, crews rushed to the scene. That included Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, married, children, a veteran, 42 years old, and a long career. It included from the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, Battalion Chief John Morrison, who had served with the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department since 1996. and they were reading a list of his jobs in the fire department and the different positions that he held. And there was so much respect from the fire agencies for these men and what they have done over the length of their careers and how they served and how they were good members of the community. And now they are part of a procession as their bodies travel from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the final stop in Coeur d'Alene at the English Funeral Chapel there, where people are gathering there to wait and have been gathering all morning long. Many of them, we're hearing from our reporters, people, as you might imagine, along the route, so emotional. It has been an incredibly challenging couple of days for the emergency community, the crews, and of course, the community at large. As you can see on your screen, you can see the emergency vehicle lights that are on right now as part of that procession makes its way down the freeway. And people allowing them, of course, to pass, to go through, and the people on the side of the roads, on the overpasses, paying their respects. You can see crews from, we're seeing so many motorcycle officers with emergency agencies, groups of police officers paying their respects. You'll see the route itself, both in the procession and on the sides, filled with firefighting trucks and fire crews. This is an emergency vehicle-led procession, and that is why you will see dozens and dozens of emergency vehicles with their lights on now as they make their way. I'm not sure what this vantage point is that we're looking out here. This is the Thor Freya exit at the bottom of Spokane South Hill. So it is just making its way now through that area in Spokane, sort of that east central area down by where you get on the freeway there. That's where that camera is positioned as crews make their way by with the procession right now. In that area as well, obviously we're keeping our cameras somewhat trained on the procession itself, but we're told by our crews at all these areas that people have been continuing to gather, and that people are driving by, waving, honking, taking a moment to pay their respects in their way to the two men that were killed, and of course keeping the firefighter Dave Tisdall, the third firefighter who was injured that day. He is in the hospital, keeping him in our mind as well. This procession will take time, of course, to make its way through Spokane, down the freeway, over state line, and into Coeur d'Alene. We will continue to follow the procession on KREM 2+ and continue to carry it live as it happens, as it's unfolding. On KREM 2, we'll take a moment here as we wrap things up on KREM 2 and get back to regular programming, but know that we'll continue to follow this. If you would like to switch to KREM 2+, if you would like to read more about it, of course, we will have everything posted on krem.com, and we will continue to track the stories as they unfold throughout the day. And you can join us on KREM 2 News at noon, 4, 5, and 6. Thanks for being with us. To all our viewers on KREM 2 and to those on KREM 2+, we will continue with our coverage. To our viewers on KREM 2+, thanks for staying with us as we continue to follow the procession for the firefighters killed in an ambush on Sunday on Canfield Mountain in the Coeur d'Alene area, where crews were rushing to the scene of a reported fire just shortly before 1:30 on Sunday. There was a fire that had been started by a shooter, and they were met and ambushed by that shooter, who ended up killing 2 firefighters and injuring a third. Today, this procession is taking the 2 men who were killed, taking them from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the Coeur d'Alene Funeral Home, which is where the procession, of course, will end. We have watched over an hour now of crews from throughout the region gathering, first at the medical examiner's office, where dozens of emergency crew vehicles are part of the procession and taking off from there and making their way through the area of Spokane, getting on the freeway, and then now traveling east. But what you'll also note is that all along that route that spans between two different states are people from agencies from out the region. You'll see community members, people who just wanted to take a moment and pay their respects. You'll see, obviously, in some areas, traffic stopped as the procession passes, and we've watched it slowly climb down the freeway as it continues, and the emergency vehicles and the procession makes its way. People in the community have been struggling the last couple of days to try to find ways in which to honor the men, to support the community of firefighters and support the families. And this is one way that people have found that they could come and support by lining the roadways and paying their respects. As you can see, the procession drives by. You can see emergency vehicles. They will continually pass as this has dozens and dozens of vehicles in it with their lights on. And you can see obviously our camera's freezing a little bit there, but they are just traveling down this route from Spokane down the freeway to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, where we have crews waiting there as well. Emotional day for fellow firefighters as we've seen them along the route taking time. Many of them, of course, bringing whole units, bringing out the fire trucks and these just amazing flags that are flying in the sun with the backdrop of the blue sky as the crews take a moment to watch the procession pass them, as now it is up and going and on its way. I don't know if we have other video that we can take of some of our crews in the Coeur d'Alene area that are waiting with the public to welcome the procession. The scene of these flags are just really spectacular as the fire teams have brought them out and hung them. As the procession will pull by, they will be able to, all those emergency workers will be able to see those flags and to see and hopefully feel the support of their fellow 911 responders as well as the community as a whole. And you can see the vehicles going by with their lights on, so many emergency vehicles making their way down the freeway. The procession was slated to start about 10. It was just getting underway short time ago, so it gave people time to gather. And we heard from our crews gather. There was a lot of hugging, a lot of conversation, being together as people grapple with what's happened in the community and find ways in which to grieve with each other. The procession now, as you can see, vehicles pulled over to the side as the procession makes its way down the freeway. Again, headed from Spokane, getting on, and we saw it from Thor Freya, now making its way through the Spokane Valley area, heading east down I-90, where then the procession will lead to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. So many of the community members wondering what they can do to support those impacted. And one of the things that the fire officials telling us yesterday during a press conference is why we let the families grieve and have their space and time. This is a way in which you can support the men, show your respects. Also, donations are being taken to support the families and firefighters as well. And we have posted that information on crem.com. So you can find it there. That information coming from the fire agencies, both Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County, as they really want to give people direction in where to give so that you know the money is being used in the way that you intended. Also, this procession this morning will end in Coeur d'Alene, and then, of course, the ongoing investigation, questions being asked, all of that continuing for fire agencies, of course, in having to help their crews grieve through this and heal through this, and then investigative units, police departments doing their role in finding out more about what happened. But today, at this time, taking a few minutes just to pay respect specifically to the men who died that day and the third firefighter, Dave Tisdall, who is in the hospital as well. This is in the Argonne area, and you can see the overpass there lined with people and with fire trucks. As you can see the procession at that time driving by, and people waiting this morning, coming early in many cases throughout the morning to line up and wait in order to pay their respects. Going back here to this overpass, again in the Argonne area, as you can see, people gathering on the side. Thankful for the people driving very slowly that need to still travel that route. And to those crews out there with their fire trucks parked and paying their respects to their fellow firefighters. These flags along the area and in different points between the two cities of Spokane and Coeur d'Alene have been beautiful to watch. Slight breeze out there on a warm morning, certainly, as we saw many people gathering in different areas, standing in what little shade they can find until the procession got underway. You can see it, it's quite a sight coming down the freeway as you see all those emergency vehicles leading the way and driving, many of them with lights on. Again, as they travel down the freeway heading east. If you're just leaving your home, maybe watching this, and you're going to be in that area, especially now as it heads into the Coeur d'Alene area, just take note, obviously, traveling at a somewhat slower pace as they make their way to the funeral home, where again, also take note of the people, so many people standing on the side of the roadways, trying to safely watch it. And so just be aware of that. It's sometimes hard as you're driving, watching something like the procession, but also being aware that there are more people than normal on the side of the road. And again, they too, maybe not, their eyes focused on something else as they hold signs and flags. So be aware of that. Somewhat of an overwhelming sight with all those emergency crews doing what they can today to be part of that procession and pay their respects. Certainly what happened this weekend, shaking the 911, the emergency communities, and this is an opportunity for them to do what they can this morning and be part of that procession. I don't know if we have a moment right now as that continues to make its way and the group of folks continue to make their way. If we have just a quick moment, I did want to put up the pictures of the men. So as we've been talking so much over the last couple of days about everything that has happened, about the case itself, and so many questions out there, and there is a lot of time we'll be asking a lot of questions. And I know so many agencies right now are working so hard to get answers, most importantly of course, for the families and the loved ones. But today is, in this moment, at this time, really so much about honoring specifically these two men. Both longtime firefighters, longtime members of the community, including 42-year-old Frank Harwood, a battalion chief, married with 2 children and a veteran. and with the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, Battalion Chief John Morrison, there since 1996. These men spent years rushing into danger, serving their community, helping people who needed them in the moment that they needed them. And that's when they died, rushing to a scene of a fire reported on Canfield Mountain on Sunday, shortly before 1:30, when they were ambushed. Those are the two men being taken from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to Coeur d'Alene as part of this procession, which you're seeing on your screen. You're seeing the pictures of the men, but also live the procession that's happening as dozens, and I don't have an exact number. We'll certainly get maybe more context later of the number, but we've seen dozens and dozens of emergency vehicles traveling the route. Again, down the freeway. Many of the emergency vehicles with their lights on. Part of that procession, people pulling over as the procession moves by. Hundreds of people lining the roadways, holding flags, signs. We've seen whole groups, agencies, firefighters, standing on the roadway. They've brought their fire trucks, many of them hoisting flags to fly high as the procession drives by. We've seen people saluting as this procession has gone by. So it's been a very emotional morning for so many people who are part of this and who wanted to come out. So many, not only people in the firefighting community or in the first responder community, but just the general public who wanted to come out and do something, feeling helpless, of course, about what happened on Sunday. But really taking time today, in a moment in time, to step back from the investigation of the case or reporting of it. We have crews, of course, working on that, but it's so important to note that these were men with families and friends and a community that is mourning them. And so wanting to take a moment to honor them as we show their picture. Also, we do want to mention there was a third firefighter who responded that day as well, also ambushed, wounded, and at last report in ICU, Dave Tisdall. He is in the hospital, and when we got the reports yesterday from the firefighting agencies, at that time told he had made it through 2 surgeries. But important to the firefighting community and the leaders of that yesterday, saying very important on this day today to remember and keep him in our thoughts as well, as he is fighting to live and his family is going through the horrific experience right now. So we're looking at right now live, this is Barker Road area approaching Liberty Lake as the procession has now made it that far, again, from the Spokane Medical Examiner's office to the Barker Road exit as we approach the Medical Lake area. And so many people now, again, just standing by, watching the procession go down the road. It's a somewhat of an overwhelming sight to see so many emergency vehicles coming down the road and to see people lined on the side of the road. Many people, of course, pulling over for it, but also we have seen people all along the stretch of freeway, on overpasses, at exits where people could safely get out, holding signs, waving, honking, waving a flag, whatever they can do to show that they're there, they're in the moment, and paying their respects. That is a long line of emergency vehicles making its way, again, from Spokane to Coeur d'Alene. And so just letting people know, as if you don't need, if you're here watching and you don't need to be in that area right now and don't necessarily want to head that way or get out of your car, that might be an area to avoid. However, they had invited the public to come out, of course, and be part of the procession and part of that support, not only for the man who died, but also for the greater community of first responders that are so impacted by what happened. This will continue, the traveling will continue. We have a crew that is stationed, and I just want to get this name right. They are stationed at the English Funeral Chapel in Coeur d'Alene, where the procession will end. And certainly the mourning will continue, and the questions and the investigation, all that will continue. But this being an important part of that process, firefighters talked about yesterday, and an important moment to note. This is in the Liberty Lake area, and you can see the procession on the cars heading east, driving towards that camera, and coming down all those emergency vehicles that are making their way. Again, as we head into, they're going to be crossing over into state line fairly soon. And this is a really dramatic shot that we've been getting all morning long, as you see a fire crew stationed there, and they've lifted that flag flying high for folks to see as they make their way down the roadway. We saw so many motorcycle crews from police departments positioned on the road and leading that procession. And we watched them get ready this morning as so many people in vehicles gathering in the area of the Spokane Medical Examiner's office. You can see the folks there on the right, and what a sight that must be to see all those emergency vehicles coming down the road. Of course, this has been, we imagine most people at this point know what is happening and what this represents, as this has been part of the collective conversation now for the last 2 days since Sunday, since this happened. People trying to make sense of it, people working through the mourning process. And so imagining a lot of those people know exactly what they're looking at as they see those emergency crews make their way down the roadway. On this Tuesday, it's been going on now, I think it started about a half hour ago, if I'm not mistaken, when the procession actually got underway. But many people standing outside, we heard from crews out there that people started gathering at, brought vehicles out and signs out starting at 8 o'clock this morning. And so many people have spent the morning preparing or gathering together with their friends, family, or their coworkers or colleagues as they wait. This is approaching state line, and we've been talking about how it will make its way over into that area very soon now. And we have seen this shot now for quite a while, as we've seen a fire crew gathering, and they have hung that flag high. It's been beautiful. It's a huge flag. It's been lightly blowing in a very, very light breeze with the blue sky as a backdrop, as they wait on that overpass for the procession to pass under them on its way to Coeur d'Alene and again to the English Funeral Chapel, where that procession will end. Again, so much of what's going to happen is long-term now from here, with investigation, with crews being brought in to help support the firefighting community. We were hearing from fire leaders yesterday that there was a team flying in that responds for funeral support for the families, of course, impacted in losing their loved one in this. There's peer counseling going on. There's resources that are being directed now to those impacted by what happened on Sunday on Canfield Mountain. but everybody taking a bit of a pause in that today to outwardly show support for the firefighters, for the families, for the community during this procession. And then again, looking long term and hearing from fire agencies and saying, look, there are so many questions that need to be asked and hopefully answered, but that they were focusing yesterday when they gave the press conference, they were focusing on specifically on who these men were, what amazing firefighters they were, community members, and really wanting to talk about that as they got ready for this procession and knew this would be happening this morning. If you're just joining us now on Creme 2 Plus, you are watching the procession for firefighters that were killed in an ambush on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. 2 firefighters were killed, 1 injured, and is now in the hospital. These men were all part of units responding to a report of a wildfire on Canfield Mountain just shortly before 1:30 on Sunday. When they arrived on scene, a fire had been started, but they were met also by gunfire. And 2 men were killed, and that third that we have been talking about, Dave Tisdall, in the hospital. And yesterday, getting a report from firefighters who read a note actually from the family that he had already undergone. And this was as of yesterday. So we were just in about a little over a 24-hour cycle then of 24 hours out since the shootings had happened. And he had already undergone 2 surgeries. The family saying at that time, through that note to firefighters, that he had done well in those surgeries, and the firefighting community wanting us to keep him in our thoughts as we covered today's procession and really as we go forward in this case. The procession, again, making its way east. If you're just joining us now on Creme 2 Plus, thanks for being with us today as we watch the procession, as people continue to honor those killed on Sunday. It started at the Spokane Medical Examiner's office and will end at the English Funeral Chapel. I don't know if we have a camera up at the chapel right now. I know we have a crew there. That is where things, as you can see, the on your screen right there, you can see some flags flying, some people standing by, people holding their flags, sitting on the roadway. You can see fire vehicles there as well. People driving by right now, of course, taking note that there are so many people on the side of the road and driving very slowly. We much appreciate that. As, of course, fire officials yesterday wanted everybody to head outside and be part of this, but to be safe doing so, of course. Brandon, we spoke to him earlier as people were gathering, and he said there was a vehicle that someone brought down, an old fire truck, old-fashioned fire truck that somebody brought down and parked starting at 8 o'clock this morning. Again, people looking for ways to be engaged and to be supportive. It's hard to know what to do. This was, I believe, earlier when things started, and you saw people saluting. That was at the start of the procession at the Spokane Medical Examiner's office when it began, and it has traveled now. I believe we're likely over the state line area of the procession as crews are making their way east. They are in Idaho, I'm told right now, and that procession will be ending shortly at the English Funeral Chapel where people are waiting there. We're taking a look back at some video of the beginning of the procession. And one reporter described the scene as just really heavy as people were out there waiting for such a sad process. But so many people saying, as we've talked to people throughout the community, wanting to do something, not knowing what to do. And this was a way, of course, to be part of that collective mourning and part of the process of being able to honor the men involved. If we can take 1 minute and put up, there we go, the donation. That was one thing people right away when it happened on Sunday. How do I give? What do I do? And the firefighting agencies, Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County, both asking to wait on the donations until they could give us specific ones to donate to, so they knew that the money would go directly to what people wanted it to go toward, which was, of course, supporting those impacted by what happened. So the redbluefoundation.org, an agency that you can give money to safely online, and again, that will be used to help those impacted by what happened on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. And then if you would rather have an in-person option, a lot of people just like to feel that they're handing over money. They like to give it in person. And you can do so at First Interstate Bank local branches. So we're told, in the Coeur d'Alene, Spokane area. And when you go in and you want to give and to those impacted by what happened, just let them know it's with the Canfield incident. Of course, the shootings happening on Canfield Mountain, in an area that is known to be just beautiful and filled with trails, and people recreate there, and then such a horrific scene unfolding on Sunday when firefighters responded to a report of a fire and then were met and ambushed by gunfire. So this is a way to give. If you would like, you're able to give and know that your money then will go to those impacted by that. And this is coming from the two fire agencies, again, Coeur d'Alene Fire and Kootenai County Fire and Rescue. If you would like to learn more about this, I was on both Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County's Facebook pages earlier. They have posted this information on their social pages, including Facebook. If you would like to go there, certainly we will put it on creme.com as well. So, and then certainly if you would like to read more about the Red Blue Foundation, you can look at redbluefoundation.org and learn more about that organization as well. Of course, everybody wanting to do what they can. And it's different for everyone, what you can give and what you're comfortable with. And I know that all donations are appreciated, of course. And so many people asking right away, which was really kind, that so many people immediately thought, how do I help? And this is a way in which to do that. Another way, of course, people are doing what they can is to line the streets today for this procession that is now has made its way from Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office and is now in Idaho. I don't know exactly where the procession is at this point. We do know it has crossed over into Idaho, and that the procession is on its way to what we're looking at here, which is the English Funeral Chapel. And that will, of course, be the final stop on that procession. Along the roadway, on the overpasses, on the areas where, on-ramps and off-ramps where people could pull off and safely gather, we have seen people do just that as a chance to pay respects. Before we get, and I suspect the procession will be here shortly, if we could take one final look at the picture of the two men who are part of that procession. I think it's important and to take note that these two men served their community for years. Battalion Chief Frank Harwood and also Battalion Chief with the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, John Morrison. The two men shot and killed on Canfield Mountain. These are the men in the procession today, and that is who we want to honor today by talking about them, by talking about the community that mourns them. So much more on this case and on this incident to talk about, and there will be time for that as we continue to gather more information. But today, really about honoring these two men. And you can see their final stop will be at this funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, and that's where people have gathered, though they have been all along the roadways since the procession left the medical examiner's office in Spokane, which has been, it has been great acts of kindness as you see people standing by the roadway with homemade signs, flags, some like this hoisted high above by fire departments who are waiting for the procession with their fallen brothers to drive by. That has been an awesome sight, those flags flying high. And we have a photographer, Chard, out there who has been positioned, I believe, in the 7th Street overpass. And that is where we have seen retired firefighters waiting as well. And I don't know, Chard, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. For me and for the viewers, can you describe what you've seen over the last hour as you've been stationed out there, and some of the folks that are surrounding you?
When I first got here about 2.5 hours ago, there was nobody here but a couple of retired firefighters. And since then, I would say there is probably close to 500-600 people just on the overpass I'm on. And then if I go, I believe, east, there is another overpass that is completely covered with people, flags everywhere, people wanting to give their support. It's definitely hot out here, but all the fire crews and retired firefighters are making sure that everybody's having water, everybody's taken care of, and everybody's just waiting for the procession to come by.
Chard, it's sort of an overwhelming sight. You just showed that overpass that was just packed. People just wanting to take a few moments of their morning to pay their respects and collectively grieve over what's happened in their very own community. It's sort of a quiet time. You can see the crowds are gathered and you know, they are shoulder to shoulder certainly, but it's certainly a quieter mood than as they wait for this procession to come by.
Oh, for sure. I had a couple people tell me that they told their boss they're leaving to go get this, to go come here, and they'll come back and there was not an issue. And it seems to be a very well attended, very community based time, and it's really nice to see given the moment.
Absolutely. We heard when crews were responding to the scene on Canfield Mountain, people in the community said, look, right away we want to do something. We don't know what to do. And this is an outlet for that, an opportunity to do something when you feel so helpless to do anything to support. It sounds like a very supportive effort out there.
Yes, very much so, very community-based, and everybody's just eagerly anticipating to pay their respects.
Chard, thank you so much for being out there today. He's one of the many crew members we have out there covering the procession on this very warm morning. As he said, of course, this is always when you see such kindness come out in people, and he said they are firefighters and retired firefighters handing out water, making sure people stay hydrated so that they can be part of this moment, but be safe as well. He talked about, you know, some folks saying they told their boss, look, I'm going, I need to go do this. And I think there is a collective sense of grief right now in the Coeur d'Alene area, but certainly expanding outward. You know, it's just such a heartbreaking time for the firefighting community, all emergency responders. This is what they do. They run into danger, and they thought they were running to fight a fire, and then met with gunfire. And so it was so startling for the community when this happened on Sunday, and so many people right away saying, I want to do something. And today, really being, it's a bit of a gift, really, to be allowed to do something when you're feeling so helpless. So We are grateful to both the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and the Kootenai County Fire Department for taking the time to hold a press conference late afternoon yesterday around 4 o'clock. They let us know this procession would be going on, and immediately people said, okay, this is something that they wanted to do. So we knew we would likely see folks lining the roads today, but it has been heartwarming to see how many people have gathered. Many of them just quietly standing by, talking quietly. Earlier today, we had reporters talking about some just emotional moments for people, hugging, being together. We saw a lot of people had little kids in their arms and flags, gathering as a family, and as Chard says, really a community-based effort. And as we've crossed over from Spokane into Coeur d'Alene, you've seen really the need for people to be out there and to be part of this, as today is about honoring, again, these two men that have served their communities for so long as firefighters, as first responders. And I know people are like, why does she keep saying their names? I keep saying their names because this is a way to honor them and to remember them. And they did a lot for their community. Battalion Chief Frank Harwood and Battalion Chief John Morrison, again, representing two different agencies, but really united in their efforts to serve their community for so long. And that's what they were doing on Sunday. They were in the moment of service when they ran towards a fire on Canfield Mountain, and they were killed in that process by a gunman, and another was seriously hurt. Dave Tisdall is in the hospital. At last report, again, from the firefighting agencies yesterday, we've been told at that time he was in ICU, but had survived 2 surgeries already after being shot on Sunday. You see these crews standing by. They have been waiting, some of them for hours, for that procession to come by. And now, as we see this live shot, you can see the motorcycle officers leading, lights on, as they make their way past this crew that has been waiting on that overpass with that flag flying high, and the procession making its way to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. You are watching the procession for firefighters who were killed in an ambush on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. If you're just joining us now on Creme 2 Plus, welcome. If you've been with us for some time now as we continue to watch the procession, we are airing this to honor the two men killed as they were rushing towards the fire and then were met with gunfire. And now there is a procession carrying them from the Spokane Medical Examiner's Office to here, to the funeral home. This is outside the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, which of course will be the last stop on the procession. The men served long careers with the respective fire agencies and decades of service between them. And we have Brandon T. Jones. He has been at the funeral home, I believe it's the English Funeral Chapel in Coeur d'Alene, where he has been standing by for quite a while, for a couple hours now, and can give us some sense of what it's like there as people continue to wait for that procession, which should be there shortly. Brandon?
Yeah, hey there, Laura. Yeah, it should be here in just a matter of moments now. So it'll be coming up north here on 4th Avenue, ending right here at the English Funeral Chapel. We've been out here throughout the entire morning, and it's just been truly amazing to see how much of the community has come out here to pay their respects to these fallen heroes that were just simply trying to do their job and to protect their community. So again, only a matter of moments now until this procession comes and wraps things up here at this funeral home. We've been out here, we've been talking with individuals, you know, people have been sharing stories about why they believe it's important for them to come out here and show their respects. Ultimately, the same kind of messaging is that they're just thankful for these firefighters. They're thankful for the first responders. And again, I just think about all of their colleagues, all of the brothers and the sisters who serve as first responders, who are thinking about these families of those who were impacted. The two men who lost their life, John Morrison and Frank Harwood, were absolute heroes. They served this community for decades, keeping those around us safe. Laura, I was telling you about a story. I spoke with a woman, one of the first people out here. This was roughly around 9:30 or so. She got out here and bracing all of this heat. Of course, it's a very hot day and out here, because she said a few years ago, I had a fire crew come out here and save my house, save her life potentially. She had a fire in the bottom of her basement, and things were in a position where she didn't know. She didn't hear any of the signals. She didn't hear any of the flames. You can hear some of the honks as people drive by and they wave. But if we could just take a look down the lines, you can just see there's dozens and dozens of people here with American flags, with firefighter shirts on, just waiting these moments. And it looks like traffic is starting to slow down. So that could be a signal that possibly, potentially, they're starting to make their way even closer. So again, we're just going to continue to stay here. We've got more coverage again coming up at noon. We'll be live as well, but it should just be a matter of minutes now until we see this procession officially wrap things up right here at the English Funeral Chapel. Again, just going to continue to kind of walk around and talk with some of these individuals. And you know, something else before I toss it back to you, Laura, we talked about that heat. There's a Trader Joe's right down the street. They've had employees just walking up and down these sidewalks, passing out water bottles to make sure everyone stays hydrated, to make sure there's no problems with either fainting or passing out, just doing their part here as this community. I think that's really what embodies this whole situation right now, is that it's a community coming together, again, not only to pay their respects, but just being there for one another as they try to make sense of this complete and unnecessary tragedy, as two firefighters, battalion chiefs, lost their life as they were trying to protect their community from a fire. But Laura, we'll go ahead and toss it back to you. Again, should just be a matter of minutes until this procession wraps up here at the funeral home.
Brandon, thank you. And Brandon, hitting on that collective community spirit that people are feeling as they line the roadways on the procession. And really that we always see this. We're lucky enough, I think, when we're covering these stories to see just really acts of kindness of people. They talked about folks coming down from the store and handing out water because it is a warm morning, and making sure people are okay, and the community taking care of each other. And so that is one of the nice things that we get to see in times of crisis, as this is just a hard day for so many people. It's there's collective grieving going on in that community, in our extended community, not just in the emergency response community, but it's felt so severely there as well, of course, but the community as a whole just really having a tough time. And this is a way they can pay their respects and take care of each other. By making sure the person next to them is okay, or the store down the street coming by and making sure that people are hydrated and getting water on what has been a very warm morning. Brandon also talking about really what heroes these men were to the community, and again, not using that term lightly. When you read what they did and how long they served. Frank Harwood, a veteran, 42 years old, serving as a battalion chief, and just has a family of his own, but daily put his life at risk, making sure others were protected. With the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, Battalion Chief John Morrison started serving there in 1996, and they gave this long list of different duties that he has done over the years, including serving as a longtime paramedic. And we see it all the time, certainly in this business, where we go to a moment of crisis, a fire, an emergency call comes in, and everybody is running one way, and the fire crews are running right towards it, and just do these amazing, heroic acts every single day. And so people very, very saddened, of course, and stunned by what happened on Sunday. As we wait for the procession, we've heard all along the roadways, we've heard people honking and cheering, waving. We've seen that. We've heard the helicopters above consistently throughout the morning. And now I think we're getting cameras in place as the procession is now making its way to the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, where some folks have been standing for a couple of hours waiting for the emergency vehicles to come through. And you can see those in the distance there, and they'll be down the roadway in just moments. You can also see from this shot the amazing number of people who have lined the road to welcome this procession and to welcome the two heroes back to Coeur d'Alene, back to their community, back to where they continuously have served, and then now will be brought back and brought here to the chapel in Coeur d'Alene, the final stop on this procession. We're going to take a moment now and just listen in as the procession is now ending here at the funeral. We have, of course, been watching the procession for the firefighters killed in an ambush on Sunday, and the hearse just pulling into the funeral home as you see people from the agencies lined there saluting. The procession making its way from Spokane, a Spokane medical examiner's office, here to the funeral home, led by emergency vehicles, which a few in the lead positions pulling in as the hearse came in behind, and then now the emergency vehicles driving through and dispersing at this time. Some still pulling in, as you'll see there. People line the streets, different points throughout the couple of dozen miles between the start and the end. Lining the streets with flags, signs, standing shoulder to shoulder on overpasses. Some of the fellow officers from different agencies saluting. People coming out to pay their respects today in what way they can, as the two men who were killed when ambushed on Sunday on Canfield Mountain
Hey guys, we gotta get
were
the fire
driven
truck through.
in a procession from Spokane to Coeur d'Alene. Now asking some of the media and some of the different people in the area to step back a little bit so fire crews can get through, and bringing this procession essentially to the end now here at the English, I want to make sure I'm saying this right, English Funeral Chapel in Coeur d'Alene. People telling our crews that they told their bosses that they needed to leave, they needed to be part of this, and everyone's saying that it's been a very community supportive mourning as people collectively grieve, and this is one way in which they can be around other people who feel the same. And you can see some of the crowd still gathering there on the side as this procession comes to an end. And so many people, again, it was beautiful to see folks lining up with their flags and their signs, being together. We saw volunteers and different people come out, hand out water so that people stay hydrated on a warm morning, and we're standing out for hours in the sun. And so you see great kindness in these moments, as well as immense sadness as well. Dozens and dozens of emergency vehicles participated in this procession. And now, again, some of them turning in to the funeral home, others continuing on with the procession coming to an end. If you've been with us here on Rem 2 Plus, we say thank you for joining us throughout the morning for this procession and being a part of honoring the two men killed when ambushed on Sunday while doing their jobs as firefighters in our community. We're going to continue for the next 20-30 seconds here, showing you the end of this procession, and we're also going to pause a moment as we get ready to begin Creme 2 News at noon on Creme 2. Thanks for being with us. We hope you have a safe day.
at Noon begins now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us here on KREM 2 News at Noon. I'm Laura Papetti, and we're going to go live right now to the area. I believe this is in Coeur d'Alene, where the procession has just wrapped up for the firefighters killed in an ambush on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. The procession traveled from Spokane at the county examiner's office to this very funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, where Brandon T. Jones has been on scene all morning long. Brandon, it was an emotional couple of hours, and that procession is just wrapping up right now as we're talking.
Laura, you can hear probably the bagpipes that are slowly and quietly playing here behind me at the English Funeral Chapel. Individuals with their hands over their hearts, saluting these fallen heroes, trying to find the words to kind of describe what we just witnessed here and what's actively taking place, but it is quite difficult. Dozens, hundreds of people line the streets, the sidewalks, coming out here to pay their respects to these two individuals, John Morrison and Frank Harwood. Heroes, again, who lost their lives just trying to protect their community before they were ambushed by a gunman. But again, dozens, hundreds of people out here, complete silence. The only sounds you hear are coming from the motorcycles, the vehicles that are pulling in, the fire trucks. Outside of that, complete silence, not a peep. You can't hear anything. Goosebumps on every single individual out here right now. A lot of emotion flowing as people just try to make sense of an unnecessary tragedy. Again, you think about these two individuals who are described as dedicated men by the colleagues closest to them. They've been working out here for decades. They've been serving this community for decades. They have been protecting this community for decades. So as we think about that, I want us to all keep their families, their coworkers, their colleagues, their friends. We can try and just keep all of them in their hands, in our prayers, in our thoughts, because it is going to be difficult. Laura, we talked about how grief doesn't have a timeline. It's going to be challenging. It's been a challenging few days. It's been an emotional few days here in Coeur d'Alene, across the inland Northwest, especially here in North Idaho. But seeing the community come together, see all of these individuals come out here to pay their respects, it truly is something that is heartwarming. It's touching. And again, all you can think about is just all of these people, especially the families impacted from these two men. These two men who spent countless years serving this community, being together. I keep going back to this story with one of the first women who came out here. This is about 2 hours ago, around 9:30 maybe. And she described those moments, and she could barely get some of those sentences out. She talked about why it was important for her to come out here today, because just a few years ago, she had a fire. She was alone in her house, her and her dogs, asleep. And a fire burns in the basement. She had no clue. There wasn't a smell. There was no sign of a fire. Power was still on in the house. But fire crews from Coeur d'Alene Fire Department came out. They helped save her, moved her safely from the home. And these are the type of individuals we're talking about over here. People who, again, are the salt of the earth. Those who walk among us, put themselves on the front lines to keep us safe. It's a tragedy that we have to do this here today. They'll be here, but it's important that we honor their lives, and that we pay our respects to these individuals. And again, so many people out here, besides my voice, who's making these noises right now. A lot of silence and a lot of emotions flowing, a lot of people trying to process how they're feeling and making sense of this tragedy. As we walk a little bit closer, you can see all of these first responders up here, and you try to put yourself in their shoes and imagine what they're feeling. We saw them in the early moments when they were first out here, setting up some of these trucks, getting prepared for this moment right here. If we can just listen to some of the bagpipes and watch families, young children, grandparents out here paying their respects.
Brandon, thank you so much. Brandon, as he said, has been out there throughout the morning with members of the community as they gathered to pay their respects to the procession. The procession making its way from Spokane to right here to a funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, where you see people quietly standing, being together, and honoring those who were killed on Canfield Mountain. We're just pausing there a moment. As Brendan said, you can hear the bagpipes playing. I do want to point out that so many people came out from Spokane all the way through to Coeur d'Alene to spend their morning on the side of the road in an overpass, bringing flags and signs. Again, trying to pay their respects to firefighters who died, and we'll be hearing from some of them today.
I'm still very shocked and very sad. When you sign up to be a firefighter or to work in EMS, you don't expect to be involved in incidents like this. Firefighters don't go into an area looking for things like an ambush or anything of that to occur. So it's very shocking. I hate to see that this happened in our community and somewhere so close to our community, and to know that there's that hatred in the world is really upsetting. For me, it was really important to show that the community is here to support, especially the families.
The procession, where it is just wrapped up at the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene, and this is a live look at folks who are standing by, many of them, as you see there, holding flags, standing at attention. We've seen people from different agencies saluting. The procession traveled, leaving Spokane, the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office, down the freeway, where people stood on overpasses and exits and did what they could to take a few moments to pay their respects to the men killed. Obviously, we've lost that shot, but back here in the studio, I am joined now with Christian Garza, who was at one of those points. You were at the very beginning at the Spokane Medical Examiner's Office for hours. And you talked about this morning, people gathering, and what that was like. And you used the word, I thought it was, it described it so well. It was heavy.
It was a very, very heavy scene. We had gotten there at about, I would say, closer to 9 o'clock. And, it had given the 10 o'clock start time, didn't start for another 30 to 45 minutes. But as I started getting there, there was just so many people, community members, law enforcement, first responders, all different people from all different backgrounds coming together for one purpose, and that purpose was to uplift the community together. It was very heavy. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of hugging, a lot of different emotions kind of going on as people said goodbye to their friends and loved ones. And it was just a scene that, like Brandon had said just a little bit ago, is an unnecessary tragedy.
Yeah. We do want to say thank you to everyone. Yesterday, the fire agencies asked people if they would like to come out and safely find a place along the route to do so, and people certainly did and made that choice to spend their time paying their respects. We're looking again live, Christian. This is where the procession ended in Coeur d'Alene. And I think, to your point, there's a collective grief that's going on right now. And this is a way not only to pay their respects, but to be with other people who are feeling the same thing at this point in time. So again, this is a look at the chapel, the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. And we've seen crews coming through as they brought the procession in. The hearse followed in, and then they've sort of closed that area off now as trucks and emergency vehicles have gone the other way. So There's so much to this story, but today was about honoring the two men.
Yes, honoring the two men and community as well, showing up for each other.
Yeah. You know, we get to see sometimes the greatest acts of, and sometimes they're just small acts, but they're acts of kindness in this time when there is a crisis or, again, that collective grief. And today we saw different people handing out water to those who had been standing in the sun. And we saw people helping each other, like you said, holding hands, hugging. We saw people shoulder to shoulder on overpasses. And you see in that woman's face how heartbreaking this is for people. Confused by what happened, angered by what happened.
And it's not just communities here in the Northwest, it's national. And to some people that I talk to who are out there standing, holding flags and being there for the communities, international even as well. They have family from across the pond saying how sad they are for our area. So it's something that the world is kind of feeling as well.
All right, and we're just, again, this is wrapping up the procession for the firefighters killed in an ambush on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. If you are just joining us, in the last minute or two, we followed the procession from where you were, Christian, at the Spokane County Medical Examiner's office. And they had dozens, and I can't really even give it a strong number because there were so many of emergency vehicles
And aircraft. There was a bunch of helicopters in the air as well. So many different people, like I said, of different backgrounds coming together for today.
Yeah. And these are the last moments of that procession as they will wrap things up here again at the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. As people are standing by, though, as bagpipes are playing. And again, as you said, we heard throughout the whole hour or two of coverage that we've been on, the helicopters overhead, the immense number of vehicles, and now fairly quiet except for that music playing in the background.
Right, exactly. And it's very similar. That's exactly how it started. It started how it ended, with community showing up and being together and supporting each other and uplifting them and their neighbors and brothers and sisters and family during this time.
We do have a lot of information if you would like to support the families. This came from the fire agencies on how to give, and we have posted that on creme.com. They are asking that people stick to the recommended donors spots, because they want to make sure the money is used as people intend it to be used. So we have that posted on creme.com, and we have lots more still ahead. But we're going to just take a quick break right now. Thanks for being with us here on Creme 2 News at noon. We will be right back. With us here on Crim 2 News at noon, we've been covering the procession for firefighters who were killed in an ambush on Sunday. And that procession just ended a short time ago at the funeral home in Coeur d'Alene. And that's where we find Brandon T. Jones. Brandon, it was emotional, especially over the last 10 minutes or so, as people gathered listening to bagpipes with their hands on their heart and holding their flags. What's it like right now as that procession is wrapping up?
Hey, Laura. Yeah, well, people, as you can imagine, are very emotional. A lot of tears have been flowing here throughout this afternoon, and a lot of individuals starting to make their way away from this funeral home right now. We're panning away just a little bit because we're honoring and making sure we're respecting the family as they make their way inside of the funeral home, giving them their necessary privacy to process and grieve all of this. But I will tell you this, it has been absolutely a sight to see, to watch all of these community members come out here and to just be present to let these individuals know, let these family members know that we love you, we are thinking of you, we care for you, and you know, you just gotta keep them in your thoughts and in your prayers, because again, it's an absolute tragedy that they're dealing with. And to see all of the colleagues, all of the co-workers, all of the other first responders out here as well, paying their respects to these individuals. It's just been about 20 or 30 minutes or so of silence outside of the bagpipes, people hugging each other, wiping tears away from their face. So things are beginning to wrap up here now, but all you can think of is what these folks are going through, the heartache, the pain they feel.
Brandon, we appreciate the reporting again from where the procession ended. And as Brandon has said, people just quietly being together as there is collective grief in not only the Coeur d'Alene area, but the greater inland Northwest, as they, of course, came today to watch the procession and honor the two men that were killed in an ambush on Canfield Mountain on Sunday. All right. We're going to take a pause from the day's news and the procession. We're going to continue to cover this story a little later on in the show. And again, of course, on crim.com and coming up tonight at 4, 5, and 6. But bring it back here now to the studio. And we're going to take a few minutes. One of the things that people out there for hours stood by in the heat, and it's been really tough because it is so warm. So I'm going to take a break from what's happening there, and I'm going to send it to Nicole Hernandez. She is in the studio with me, and we're going to chat a little bit about the weather. Nicole.
Yeah, Laura, it is quite hot out there, almost 90 degrees here in Spokane and also out in the Coeur d'Alene area as well. We're going to talk about how long these hot temperatures stick around in just a few minutes. Well, if you've been outside at all this afternoon, it has been quite hot already. We have heat advisories in effect for our area right now. Tomorrow, we have some storms and wind coming in, but then things clear out and we get pretty calm for a very nice 4th of July. We are under weather impact alerts today through Wednesday because of those temperatures being 90+ degrees. Today ends up being the hottest day with temperatures in eastern Washington and North Idaho reaching upwards of mid-90s. Out in central Washington, 100-degree temperatures potential for different spots out there. So very hot weather. The National Weather Service is warning to just be careful. Number one, stay hydrated and try to check on your friends and family, especially people who don't have air conditioning. Right now, we are under those heat advisories for the entire region because of these hot temperatures. These stay in place until 9 o'clock this evening. That is going to be because today is the hottest day of the week. It expires at 9 p.m. because we start to see the temperatures decrease tomorrow. There's basically a low pressure system that has moved its way into the region, and it's going to start moving its way closer come Wednesday. It's going to cool us down by a few degrees, but really not by that much. Tomorrow, we end up seeing temperatures in the low 90s instead of the mid 90s here in Spokane, and other spots sticking in the 80s. It is a relief from today, but it's not necessarily cool by any means. It will still be above average and quite warm or hot, depending on where you are. The other thing we end up seeing is a chance for some scattered lightning showers, likely very dry. These storms moving their way through, so lightning plus the hot and dry weather plus a potential for winds making their way through means high fire danger. Winds tomorrow 25 to 40 miles per hour, strongest through central Washington. Because of all of that, National Weather Service putting a weather watch for fires into central Washington. This starts tomorrow afternoon and lasts through tomorrow evening, so we are going to be watching that carefully. For that reason, we stick with that weather impact alert through Wednesday. Then we expire those for Thursday as things start to calm down into your 4th of July.
All right, Nicole, thank you. We are taking a live look right now at the procession for firefighters who were killed in an ambush on Sunday. It is the end of the procession. It is at the Coeur d'Alene Funeral Home where dozens of emergency vehicles led the hearse from the Spokane Medical Examiner's Office to Coeur d'Alene in this procession that went on since early this morning, or I should say rather since about 10:30, 10:40 this morning. This is a live look as things are coming to an end here, but we have certainly continued to tell this story as there is so much more for us to ask and to learn. But today, this morning, was about honoring the two men killed on Sunday in that ambush. Frank Harwood, and Frank Harwood, by the way, who is 42 years old, married with 2 children, and also Battalion Chief John Morrison. We are going to sign off here on KREM. You can join us on KREM 2 Plus for extended coverage.